Hello and welcome to the TCS podcast, where we are dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success by supplying you with the tools, resources, and support necessary to not only build profitable businesses, but to create a lasting impact on your families, companies, and community. I'm Eric Guy, Director of Learning and Development at TCS. Joining me today is actually a friend of mine. He's not new to me. He's going to be new to the TCS arena here, and I think you'll enjoy him. But Coach Rich Gaberti from Naples. From Naples, Florida, and we've done some things together in the past, and I asked him, he was gracious to donate his time to come back on here to talk to us contractors, mostly around mindset. I mean, he's been doing a lot around mindset, and I'm going to let him go into his background because I just found it interesting the first time we talked a while ago. He's been on my podcast a couple times now. But I mean, you've been around the block. I mean, you've seen the ups and you've seen the downs. You've been on the mountaintop. You've been in the valley. He's originally from the Bronx, guys, so he knows construction.
There you go.
Yeah, and he's Italian, so yeah, he born and bred a contractor, right, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. You come out with a hammer and a screwdriver at birth, and there's a couple of things an Italian from the Bronx does. They get baptized, they receive communion, they go for confirmation, and they get handed some kind of a tool and told, don't be afraid of it. And you get a task, and the next thing you know, you're painting or putting up a wall with your uncles, friends, cousins, or whatever. So I love the creativity of construction. I love the creativity of contracting. And so to talk to you about this industry is fantastic. This is really a thrill and an honor. Anytime we talk, it's always educational with a little bit interference by laughter. So let's see what we can do here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I just thought it was funny that you said a little bit earlier, kind of off camera here, that you're growing up in the Bronx and being Italian, you were either one of two things: you were the contractor or in the mafia, or sometimes both, right?
I have no recollection of that conversation, Your Honor. It sounds vaguely familiar from a movie, perhaps, that I watched as a child. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyhow, So tell us your background. Like you've been around the block with it, because the guys that we speak to, Coach, are, and when I say guys, I mean men and women. So the folks that we speak to are high performers that in the TCS arena at Tom Contractor School are looking to take it to that next level, and they have. And the ones that have jumped a couple levels are just waiting to take it to the next. But give your background on where you've been and what makes you kind of an expert at speaking at some of this stuff that we're going to talk about today.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for the opportunity. And here we go. So I was born in the Bronx, New York. Italian family. My grandparents were immigrants, came over on the boat. My grandmother got a banana. She threw the pit out and ate the skin, thinking that was how you ate a banana. So so there we go. I grew up in that kind of a household. Fantastic people. My grandfather was a chef. He motivated me because he always talked about positivity, better days ahead, take it easy, better days ahead, 50 years, it won't matter. He just implanted that. I can remember stuff like that from 3, 4, 5 years old. Went to Catholic school, went to high school, Mount St. Michael Academy. That was where they sent all the guys so they could bone up on breaking each other's chops, teasing, and it was like that movie Lord of the Flies or something. And then ended up at Iona College, which is now a university somehow, and that stood for idiots on North Avenue, or Italians on North Avenue, or Irish on North Avenue, because that's predominantly who went there. And got out of there, Eric, and always was playing sports throughout those years. So I knew what it was like to be on a team. And next thing I knew, I got a job opportunity which saved my life, took me away from the neighborhood, and that was going on tour with a rock band called Aerosmith. And I started as a security guy because I was an Italian who went to the gym, so I knew how to stand with my chest out and my arms flexed. And whether I was tough or not, who knows? Because there's always somebody that's tougher. But I toured the country and the world with one of the top rock bands of all times, who happened to be, two of them were called the Toxic Twins. So left the Bronx with that insanity, went on tour, was surrounded by high level achievers, successful people, and in some cases they were tormented, batshit crazy like everybody else. So that really brought me into the world of rehab, recovery, and it wasn't coined mindset at the time, but certainly it brought me into the world of positivity, trying to use the mind to flip the script, break the loop, or get people to have success by the way they saw the world. So your thoughts create your actions create, your reality. So all of those things came into play. And when you say, after 60 years, if you're either dead, living the life of a mentally paralyzed vegetable almost, or you change and you learn. So from Aerosmith, in that mix, I got married. I have two great kids who aren't kids anymore. They're 36 and 31. So I don't know how that happened. And suddenly I look in the mirror and I have gray hair. So life moves pretty quickly, right? And I then, because of my kids, I became a hockey coach. And because I had played as a kid, I loved hockey. I liked that sport. I mean, I like all sports, but hockey was one of them that I really liked. And I became a hockey coach, and that morphed into me coaching Fordham University's men's hockey team for 14 years. And like I tell everybody, they said, "Were you successful?" I said, "Well, you play to win." And so that's what I studied to do. And I wasn't afraid of change. I was always into continual learning. And that's how even now you could apply continual learning to any industry. And this one here is one that could use, like most, continual learning. And, what do I mean by that? The construction industry, there's always going to be a need for it. And I think that the people that are joining what you're offering are taking that step to understand. They already understand the biggest hurdle, and that is change is good, for lack of a better word. And they are now engaging and trying to better themselves with some of the tools that are out there. And in this case, for the mind, with mindset. Continual learning, it kaizen in Japanese, the art of continual learning is called kaizen, and that pertains to business as well as personal growth. So this is, I was amazed actually when I saw what you were doing. I said, "Wow, this is very progressive," and I'm excited for anybody that joins this. It's great.
Yeah, it is. And, one of the things that we deal with that you've probably seen, but you also emphasize this, not just for contractors, but anybody that you're working with, are those comfort zones that are just silent success killers. How do you see that applying to contractors just facing daily operational challenges?
I mean, comfort zones is basically, to me, where progress goes to die. The comfort zones are dangerous. They really are. When you get too comfortable, that's when you forget to do something on a job, and it causes either a slight failure or even worse than that, right? Because what you're doing in construction, people can get hurt. People could get hurt. Walls can fall. You could flood a place. You could flood the place below you if you don't do all of the precautionary measures. If you're in a rush, or you don't bid the job the right way, and now you have, let's say, 10 less people doing it, bad things can happen. So I just think that what scares me is this is the way we've always done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you could hear that. I actually try to catch myself in not saying that, because something like that's a red flag.
Yeah.
I think. S- So that, operational challenges, that they shouldn't be roadblocks,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They're like invitations. And I know some of this stuff, somebody's going to say, "Well, this is crazy. It's too artsy fartsy or whatever." But man, it's the truth. It really is. I mean, when you can, it really when you could lean into what's uncomfortable, that in a business, or in a setting, on a particular day, that's where the magic happens. It really does.
Yeah. And I think I see a lot of it, not so much from our contractors, our school. I mean, we definitely are outside of our comfort zone. Just for some people, jumping on the calls every week is just something they've
Hmm.
never done, right? You've
Right.
never had that piece. I mean, I know when I joined um, a group, oh my goodness, years and years and years ago, that was way outside my comfort zone. And one just to pay for it, right,
Mm.
was weird, right? And then two, being in what I thought was a group of these just like giants, right? These people that have been out there doing it. And I think a lot of times, why I did that is because a lot of times I just was feeling stuck. What what suggestions or strategies would you recommend for like contractors for tasks that they've been avoiding? Right, that procrastination piece for some
Uh,
contractors.
I mean, how about you write down the three things that you're avoiding? Something simple, right? I can remember always saying, put the pen to the paper.
Yeah.
That's an expression. And I mean, to explain where these expressions came from, in my case, it was because the high level entertainers, and it's no secret, but a lot of these guys like to trip the light fandango. And that's just like an adrenaline, if you want to call it adrenaline, cortisone rush, or whatever it might be. You come off stage, and we used to do concerts, in front of 20,000 to as many as 250,000 people. And then you get off stage and
Mm-hmm.
your ears are ringing. You're just amped up. Well, what do you do next? Well, you try to self medicate yourself. Suddenly, that
Mm-hmm.
entertainer who's a good singer, whatever, a musician, thinks he's a chemist or a scientist or a doctor, even worse, and you try to medicate yourself. So a lot of this stuff is either from AA, NA, recovery, whatever. When you talk about talking in a group, well, we used to go to places in a group. So, as a matter of fact, one of the places we went might be near you. It's a Chit Chat in Warrensville, Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's still in business, but we would go there and do family weekends, and that would
Yeah.
basically be like some of the top management people with the band, and we would hang around and sing whatever George Benson's George Benson songs, whatever it might be. But great stuff. It really was. And Zig Ziglar and people like that. We listened to all of those guys. Martin, and I'll forget his name. He's like the father of positivity. It starts with an S, Schleichberger or whatever. I probably abused that. I apologize, Martin. But things like that. But the high high achievers, high successful people. In my case, a person like Fran Tarkenton, who's an NFL quarterback. He played
Mm-hmm.
for the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. He was one of my first mentors, and he subsequently introduced me to a tall, pudgy kid from San Diego or from California somewhere, named Anthony Robbins. And you could Google it. Anthony Robbins and Fran Tarkenton did the first infomercial together. Tony Robbins' first infomercial, the host was Fran Tarkenton, and I was in the background, unseen as always. But if you're with Aerosmith, I'm in the background. It's
Yeah.
great. It's almost like who would believe that I even did this stuff,
Right.
except that I got some kind of once or twice got a picture with them. Anyway, but my point is that it's almost like a procrastination a hit list. Make one of those. And that I think that's what is important. And it'll save you money. I mean, if you put off that, somebody wants an estimate, and you put that off a couple of days for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? By the time you get to it, you might have lost a $150,000 job because they thought you weren't interested.
Right.
So just little stuff like that. I mean, it's important. If there's a guy that's not performing his task properly and you just keep putting it off because you don't want the engagement and you don't want to disrupt the job site or whatever, that could cost you.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
it could cost you. And so yeah, I think it's write down three things. Why three? Because that seems to be I mean, you would notice better, but that seems to be a acceptable amount. It's not too little and it's not too much.
Right.
So it's the number three. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got right before we're recording this. I mean, I just got off the phone with one of our contractors who's dealing with stuff like this. This is what he's dealing with. He's
Yep.
talking through a lot of this, and the next subject that I'm going to bring up with you, I was talking to him about too, because he's overwhelmed, right? And
Yeah.
I tried to talk to him. You've talked about this concept of just daily wins. Like, what are your daily wins? I mean, you said it when you first popped
Yeah.
on here. Hey, man, how's it going? Well, I got up out of bed this morning and I'm alive. Uh,
Yes.
how does that kind of practice, that daily win practice, transform that mindset of that contractor?
Well, I mean, it gets you thinking first off. So you're not thinking about what went wrong. It could be as simple as at the end of the day, just writing down what you did well today. What did I do well today? It might have been that you brushed your teeth really cool, or that you know what I'm saying. And there's you
Yeah.
listen. You could have a crappy day. Everything could go foobar, right?
Yep.
I mean, that happens, and it happens a lot. It happens to anybody, me, you, no matter how yogi we think we are, or or namaste we are. Shit happens.
Yeah.
And so, what did I do well today? How about what challenge did I lean into? Like you were challenged, you said, "Oh, this is a challenge. Now let me deal with it."
Hmm.
So just think about those two. Now you're at two, and then the other thing is, who did I lead or lift up? I really think that for me, when I'm feeling a little down or having a challenging day, I think that, and I'm spirit. I believe in God, first off. Okay. So I think that God puts people in my path. I think things happen to me for a reason. And so on a day where stuff is foobar, who could I run into that's because when you're having a bad day, you could recognize other people having a bad day if you're self-aware. And so how
Hmm.
could I make somebody else feel special? Even on a job site, because I have been on job sites. I've worked on job sites. I have rehabbed a bunch of houses over the course of the years I've been alive, and been successful at it. So how do I, why not be nice to the guy who's picking up the demo? You,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? If we knock a wall down, there's somebody obviously on these jobs that clean up the place, right? Well, rather than crap all over the site all day, knowing that there's going to be a guy when we leave that cleans up after us, just be slightly neat, or even just say hello to the guy or gal, whoever
Hmm.
it might be. Just being cool to people on the job site. Uh, if I am the client, I'll always try. I'll say hello to people. I've brought people that are dear to me on the site because they speak Spanish and I don't speak fluent Spanish. And guess what? It's fantastic because I think it shows you care.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if you show that you care, it's going to make the job site. It'll make it better in any industry. I mean, you have to be as a leader. If you have guys that are the leaders of companies, you have to know what you're doing. And there has to be that self-confidence, I feel, that you know what you're doing, but not to the point where you just say, this is the way it goes and this is how we're going to do it. No, have silent self-confidence, okay? And let people approach you. If you're uncomfortable with that, I get it. Then have a suggestion box, not a complaint box, a suggestion box. Anybody could say that, oh, the lights are dim here, but give me a suggestion on how to make them bright. What are we
Yeah.
going to do to fix that? Don't throw 9,000 problems at me. Let's bring a solution. How's that?
Yeah. And that goes into like the celebrating small victories. How do you see that, especially in the construction industry,
Hmm.
celebrating those small victories? How does that contribute to long-term success? Because I've seen some of our inner circle members really capture that. I'm thinking I've got a couple people in my head. Actually, the one gentleman that's down in your neck of the woods, I think he's doing a really good job at it. But what are your thoughts on that? So celebrating small victories to get to long-term success in the construction industry.
I think you should celebrate every day the fact that the day ends. You know, in other words, find something small in the day. I mean, sometimes we set these great goals for the day. Let's say you want to put up sheetrock and the sheetrocker doesn't show up or something like that, or the taper doesn't come, or the plumber can't get there, or whatever it might be. Well, then figure out a way to celebrate the people who are there, not talk about the person who's not there. And I think that that's important. The job's never done, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look at it that way, because there's always another project. It's like, so you won today, tomorrow's another day. And I also think that that helps in getting people to become a team. I think a job site is a team. Just like when I coached college hockey, or
Yeah.
I'll start with the first thing that I could reference is when we were on tour with Aerosmith. You had a road manager, a security manager, a stage manager, and then they had their underlings, let's say, and everybody though the goal of that team, because it's a team, you have to work together. You can't work apart. That's so derisive. But so you have to work as a team, and the goal is to get the band on stage, and to make them look good. Because if they look good, then you sell tickets, then you sell merchandise, and then guess what? You stay on tour longer,
Yeah.
and you get paid for something that the amount of money that you get paid on tour is pretty decent for what you're doing, and plus it's exciting. It kind of beats some of the whole humdrum jobs you could have had. So the same thing with construction. Look what you're building. You're building a whatever it might be, a Four Seasons or a Ritz. I mean, down here you got some killer projects going on. You have, I
Yeah.
think, two, and I'm going to miss somebody's project, and I apologize, but you got like two Ritz Carltons being built. You got a Four Seasons being built. You got an area called Port Royal, which boasts like a house for sale for $220 million. Imagine. I mean, you get a boat dock though. It's kind of cool, right? So, just think about that. And then you got people building communities that are putting first-time home buyers into those houses at an affordable rate, actually equal to, if not less than, what the rent would be if you went to go rent a two-bedroom, two-bath house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's exciting too. So down here and I think across the country, there's a lot of exciting programs that are being instituted to let people, live a decent life. So, I mean, there's a little look. Change always causes some hiccups, and there's some hard times maybe involved now. But I feel optimistic that we are headed in, hopefully, in a way that will help Americans. And people who are here that entered the country legally. I don't know how else to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a great country, and in where I'm located, I think that Spanish is spoken by like 67% of the people. So guess what? I got a bone up on my Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with that, and there are some very dedicated, hardworking people. And there are some companies that are actually going into the high schools and the colleges, and they are training some of the kids on various trade jobs, which I think is fantastic. Some of the builders is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, talking about a growth mindset, let's dip into resilience and the role that resilience plays, because I see a lot of contractors, or at least I have in the past, that have given up just right before they're going to succeed, or they might even drop out of our program every once in a while because they get scared.
Mm.
It's like they had not done this before. They go back to their old ways. So how do you see resilience playing out in developing that mindset, especially when you get things like setbacks and failures?
Well, first off, you have to accept the fact that that's going to happen, right?
Hmm.
Things are going to happen, and they're going to happen on a daily basis, and they're going to happen to good people. Like I did everything possible I could possibly do in this situation, and yet this is the result. This disaster occurs.
Hmm.
So I get that from the best thing for me was coaching hockey. Okay, because you don't always win. I mean, in my mind, I was self-confident. Boy, I certainly thought I was a good coach. I knew I could motivate my guys, and yet, geez, we lost some games. We've lost some championships. I mean, we won. I think I don't know what it was. We won 5 out of 8, but I remember the 3 that we didn't win more than the ones we did. So my point is that resilience, relentlessness. I mean, you have to expect the unexpected. You can't be paralyzed by it because that's fear and that gets you nowhere. But you have to you have to expect that it's going to happen. You can't be surprised by it. You can't be surprised about somebody putting in something the wrong way, or whatever it might be. You can prevent everything possible, but yet things happen. And so and pardon me, and the other thing which is I find so true is right right when you feel like quitting. I think that so many times so many people quit right before that breakthrough of success,
Hmm.
because
I agree.
success is not instantaneous. I'm not going to open up a company down here and say, okay, I'm into contracting and succeed the first day. It probably is not going to happen. And you could go, and the other thing is you could do eight parts, 9 parts of the job right, and that one part you don't do right, and that could be success or failure in that job. So it's a daily thing. It's not going to be perfect. I always cringe when I hear somebody when I hear somebody say, "I want to rehab my house and I want everything to be perfect." I'm like, "Oh Jesus." How about just try to be better every day, to
Right.
the workers. Let's just be better than yesterday. If we were perfect yesterday, okay, great. Let's be better today.
Yeah.
How do we get everybody to buy in on the quality of service, the quality of what they put into it, and the importance of together we can win. Together we could build a beautiful house, condo, shed, whatever it might be, garage, and just be proud of it. I mean, that's what's important, I feel.
Yeah, and that leads me into one of my last questions here, Coach. How, because you've talked about team and lifting one another up, doing things together. How what would you say to contractors to help them integrate kind of those growth mindset principles into their teams, their project planning, their meetings, to get everybody on board?
Well, I think that you have to realize that if you're not evolving, your competition is. I think that that's important. I mean, codes change, tools change, labor laws shift. I mean, there's so many things that are going on that, tech moves fast, that if you're running the crew like it's 1998 or something like that, wow. I mean, just think about that. Think of the difference in contracting from 98 to now. I mean,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
if you're not going to change, you're going to be left behind. And one of the ways is to engage the team, engage the guys. Look at it. I mean, I think there's so many contractors that have played sports, that are athletic, that are used to that, or there are so many that were in the military, let's say, that get back to that group, that team mindset. And so together we succeed. And so if there's a project manager and you have 10 people working underneath that project manager, you got to really identify the negativity and address it but in an intelligent way. But you have to address it. You do not be the one person that's pointing out how the manager is pointing this job in the wrong direction. That's easy, right? It's easy.
Right.
It's easy to say your hair's too long, my hair's too white, You know what I'm saying? Or whatever it might be, right? It's easy to say that. Oh, this old guy, look at him. He's got glasses on, whatever. I don't give a shit. You know, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I would say you got to implement mindset strategies in your daily operation. You know, turn your meetings. Do you have meetings?
Yeah.
Do you meet with your people? Even if you just meet with the project managers, depending on the size of the company, meet with people. This is what we're going to do. Make it like a laboratory, man. You know, just not a blame session.
Right.
Make it an improvement session. This isn't about, yeah, you know, Joe, that taping job was horrendous or whatever it might be. You know, we knocked that wall down. We didn't look where the pipes were. You know, no blueprints. Come on.
Yeah.
It's you know, I would say correct privately. You know, and once again, I don't think anybody wants to get chastised and embarrassed in a group. And for any of the guys that I coached in hockey the first couple of years when I thought I was on tour, but it was really a hockey team, I apologize in advance. But you know, I think that the way you you know, use feedback as fuel for growth, basically. So don't and correct privately. You know, that's my suggestion, and it works a lot better. So towards the end of my coaching career, which was stopped by COVID, that's the only team that beat me was the COVID team. You know, I would do things like, I know that we're better than this. We as a group know we're better than this, you know, and let's try what we're good at. And that's this, and this, and do that. And then if one of the guys was a miscreant for whatever reason, I would just, you know, pull them aside and say, hey, come on. You know, what are you doing? Maybe this isn't right for you. Maybe ultimate frisbee might be the game you want to play. You know, something like that. Go play that. But you know, I mean, I know that one contractor I know has a red flag box. You know, and people put a red flag box. You know, anonymous notes that are slowing down the crew. You know, and people could leave a little anonymous note. I think that works out well. I think that in a group setting, a lot of times guys, I mean, look, a lot of guys, you know, if you got a bunch of alpha males sitting down there and with hammers and power tools and nail guns and stuff, and it's just a testosterone fueled room, maybe it's better to put a note in a box and deal with it that way. You know, I mean, it's a great bonding thing, though. I mean, a construction site could be and should be a great bonding experience, and it's definitely team building.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, good stuff. Any parting advice for our contractors who are listening, aiming to really sustain growth and success in their companies?
Yeah, well, a lot, you know, we could go for 30 minutes, but I think that right now I would take advantage of technology. Now, technology, things like mindset, but also there, you know, positivity, technology. When I say positivity, when I say mindset, eating right, making sure people are hydrated, making sure that you have electrolytes on the job and not just Gatorade, something full of sugar, you know, but some healthy stuff. Be aware of that, making sure people get some sleep. So we have that part of importance when it comes to team building. The other thing I feel is that find out what kind of software is out there if you haven't already. Now, I think that a lot of the bigger companies are already employing that, but just a simple thing like doing, and we talked about this, having people walk through a place with their phone, and then you could actually get the dimensions of the place by just doing that, doing a walkthrough with a phone, and there's software that'll make the dimensions. Now, somebody, and it might have been me back in the day, would say, well, that doesn't work. I measured this room, it was off a foot, something like that. But I would say try to find things like that, something that makes an estimation where you could put in whatever the costs are that you're charging, and you could bang out an estimation within, I would say, 24 hours the longest, and then have it emailed. So the use of that kind of software, CRM, customer retention models, you know, a good CRM that sends things out. And then the opportunity that I believe is something that's very affordable is social media.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you got to dance on TikTok although you would get a lot of views if you did that. Not you, but I mean a contractor that does something like that with their, and if the guy's out of shape and he wears a bikini, well, that's 1 million views. But at 5 cents a view, you do the math, guys. But I'm talking about on the serious side, social media, because it raises awareness. Case in point for me is that I have, I don't know, it's probably 1 million views on a couple of things, and so I didn't pay for it. But look at all of the awareness that I received from making a video that resonated with the viewers. And so how does that pertain to a contracting business? Well, you could just post some things on, you don't have to do 30 posts in 30 days, but you could make either some videos, behind the scene videos, you could make some knowledge based videos. There's a whole bunch of things that you could do with social media that raises awareness, so that when I am in, let's say, Naples, Florida, I know if I want to do a small project, I'm going to look for a small contractor. There are a bunch of them on social media that have some very entertaining, presence. And then there are some down here that are just mammoth companies that are doing these big projects, and yet they're on social media in one way or another. And so I would think that it doesn't mean that you yourself are going to have to do it. You could first turn to family members. If you have kids, well, tell them they're not going to eat unless they help you with social media. Stop giving everybody a free meal in your household. Like, engage your daughter or son or whoever it might be, just to help you with social media and knowledge based social media. So LinkedIn. Okay, you could do stuff on LinkedIn. There are contractors on LinkedIn. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. If you want to delve into TikTok, I mean, I'm on TikTok. You could delve into TikTok even. You could have your kid, who I'm sure is a brainiac because they grew up with a phone in their hand, right? I mean, I see kids 3 years old, they're walking around with a cell phone, right? Not that that's whether it's right or wrong, it's society. So if your kid is one of those kids, well, they could help you with social media. You have an in-house social media manager. And then again, I think you do already. Yeah, right? Your daughter is. I do. Yeah. Yeah. So that's like next level stuff. I mean, she's great. I mean, you're a great guy, and she's the joy of your life, right?
Yeah.
Is that how that all works?
That's
hope,
it.
Hope and joy. Yeah, it's awesome. So I would think that, on the serious side, don't overlook social media. Figure out a way, and I'm sure, Eric, you have a solution to that. Figure out a way to hire somebody, or empower one of your kids or somebody that knows how to do it, and it just does wonders for your business. You'd be amazed. You can go from 2 million to 20 million.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we do offer at the Top Contractor School. We have a media team, and they do a great job of getting things out, getting our contractors noticed, having that influence in their communities. But yeah, thanks again for joining us. That was a great conversation as always. I really appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we'll see you in the future again. And hopefully,
I hope so.
We'll be back down in Naples here soon. But that's a wrap for today, guys, on the TCS podcast. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time.